All right, Nick, let's talk about the Chicago Bears. The Bears have had a great offseason, a lot of change, whether it's the coaching, whether it's new players brought into this team. There's been a lot of change, and I think it's going to be for the better. But as we're in this lull, we're right out of training camp and mini camps. We're about to get into the next phase of things. It gives us a little bit of time to dig into this Bears roster and see, are there any hidden gems in there? Were there some guys that we missed that could make an impact on this team? And there indeed is one guy in particular I think is really special. There's a lot of great things going for him. So before we dive into that, I'm Andrew. That's Nick. And this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, digging through the roster, seeing all of these new guys, is there anybody that was missed? Maybe kind of, scrolled past that could make an impact on this team. And indeed, I think there is, especially when you're looking at fifth round pick Zaw Frazier out of UTSA. I think this guy could make an impact on this team. So let's jump into the article and we can break down the data on the other side. This, of course, is over from the Daily Herald. It says, although Frazier needs to develop and put on more weight to complete physically in the NFL, Allen, talked about new defensive coordinator Dennis Allen, liked what he saw early on from Frazier. He said, here's another guy, a young developmental corner. He's got a lot of things that he has to learn, Allen said, but he's got the tools for us to work with. And who better to work with him than Harris, a guy that's kind of got a similar frame and played a long time in this league, had a lot of success. So we're excited about getting the opportunity to work with him and helping him grow. So I think this is very interesting. I think Zaw Frazier coming into this team, he has a lot to work with, obviously, as Alan said. But when you look at his stats against some other similar sized DBs throughout the course of the draft, all over this draft, as you'll see when I pull up this first chart, he's got some good grades as well as some good statistics, I think, that can help the Bears out. So let's get into our first chart. And this is Zaw Frazier against some 2025 cornerbacks, all relatively the same size, 6'1" plus, around that 180 to 200 pound mark. Zaw Frazier being 6'3", 185. So we see Frazier here in green. He was a fifth round pick for the Bears. We've got Travis Hunter next to him in red. Everybody knows, second overall pick to the Jaguars. Darren Porter, a guy we're pretty high on that did well, went to the Raiders in the third round pick. And Jason Marshall Jr. out of Florida, another fifth round pick here, just to kind of give some perspective. All these guys very similar in size, different points at the draft. But we look at run defense, which I think is a critical grade for corners. It's great when they're in good in run defense. When we look at Frazier, better than everybody else, doing a lot of good things when we talk about the run defense game. Zaw Frazier, 82.1 run defense grade. Travis Hunter, the next best guy, 78.8 run defense grade, but you'd expect that out of the number 2 overall pick. Darian Porter, kind of disappointing in run defense, 36.8 grade for him. And Jason Marshall Jr., just okay, 68.4 grade for him. We look at tackling. This is another place where Zaw Frazier shines better than everybody, better than the bunch. He's 80.5 tackling grade, a short tackler. Travis Hunter, not too shabby though, 72.3. Darian Porter, 50.4 tackling grade. Then Jason Marshall Jr., 63.4 tackling grade. And finally, we look at coverage, another obviously key skill for a corner. Zaw Frazier may not be at the top, but he is right there with some of the best guys. 82.5 coverage grade for Zaw Frazier. Travis Hunter, 90.1, but then again, he is a first round number 2 overall pick. Darian Porter, a guy that may not do very well in some things, but does really, really well in one thing, and that's coverage. 90.1 coverage grade for him as well. Then Jason Marshall Jr., 72.1 coverage grade for Marshall Jr. So Zaw Frazier is in and around competing with all these guys, or he's just straight up better than them when it comes to some key cornerback grades. But let's look at some statistics and see how productive he was. And when you look at Zaw Frazier from this metric, he's looking really, really good. We've got interceptions, a great metric for any corner. How many big plays can they make in a year? What can they do? Can they make some noise, make some impact in coverage? And he definitely can. He actually has more interceptions, than every other corner on this list combined. So 7 interceptions for Zaw Frazier last year, 4 for Hunter, 3 for Porter, and 0 for Jason Marshall Jr. Then let's look at another great statistic, passer rating when targeted. We look at Frazier, a 37.7 grade, very good, even better than Travis Hunter, who had a 39.9 grade. Not quite as good as Darian Porter, who I said, again, very, very good in coverage. He had a 4.7, maybe a little bit of snaps played skew there. But again, Porter, great in coverage, not great in run defense, not great in tackling. Then we had Jason Marshall Jr., kind of outlier, 119 passer rating when passed on. So not great there. But again, that just shows how much of a steal Frazier was in the 5th round compared to another guy like Jason Marshall Jr., who again was also picked in the 5th round. I think breaking all this stuff down, we get to see Frazier, a really solid corner, a really great addition who I think can make some noise for this Bears team. Curious what your thoughts are on all of this, Nick. But before we go to you, Bears fans, in the comment section below, we're talking corners, we're talking draft. It's an easy question, so I'm going to throw one name out of the running to begin with. No Peanut Tillman in there, but who is your favorite cornerback in Bears history of all time? I know there's a lot of great ones, good ones on the team right now, but let us know in the comment section below who's your favorite Bears corner or just, DB of all time. Let us know in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what are your thoughts on everything here for Frazier and the Bears?
So I think when you look at the Bears and you look at coverage, specifically the cornerback position, the overall theme is they're good there, right? You look, of course, at Johnson, they're good. Gordon is good. Those two guys are really solid players. Tyreek Stevenson is a young corner who's done some good things. But when you look at the analytics and you look at the data, there's a lot of red flags when it comes to Stevenson. I think, and that is the concern if you're a Bears fan going forward. So just to bring up his numbers, courtesy of PFF, last season, his coverage grade, talking about Tyreek Stevenson, 58.4, his tackling grade 56, his run defense grade 63.7. None of those are good numbers. That's being below average and everything. And you're a starter with a team that's trying to vie for playoff contention. Red flag there. And that wasn't an aberration. His rookie year, 2023, almost identical numbers, 59.1 coverage grade, 66 tackle grade, 61 run defense grade. So again, this is a guy after 2 years. He's definitely a work in progress, not by any stretch saying he can't develop and become a great player. And he's done some very good things at times. He's had some really nice games. He's just been inconsistent. And the reality is, up to this point, he has not emerged as a high quality corner. Now, you look at a guy like Frazier and you say, okay, he's got some issues. There's a reason he's a 5th round pick. But I think the fact that he's impressing early is a sign that he could be a potential competitor. I'm not saying right away, but develop into a competitor for Stevenson's slot, really to be that other outside corner opposite Johnson. And we'll have to see how things shake out in training camp in the preseason, of course. And look, I'm not saying Frazier wins it outright during this first rookie season. Maybe it'll take some time, but I think you have to look at this Bears squad and say, okay, what are we going to do when we're trying to improve our roster? Because if you look at the dollars allocated to the veterans, which the Bears have done a lot, we talked about offensive line, we've talked about playmakers, we've talked about a lot of money they're going to be throwing at Caleb Williams before it's all said and done. They're going to have to make some tough decisions. They have some veterans on defense too, Sweat being a big name, but of course you have guys like Jalen Johnson who's going to get paid a lot of money when it's his time. You're going to have to make decisions in terms of what guys are you going to let walk in free agency and what guys are you going to keep. And I know it's very early to think that when it comes to a guy like Stevenson. Again, he's only played 2 seasons, right, going into year 3 of his Bears career. But the reality is now is the time where smart franchises start coming up with succession plans. And I think Frazier's a perfect guy for that. You brought up the fact he's got an NFL frame, he's got an NFL body. He did a lot of good things collegiately. I love the fact he's a good run defender and tackler. Because when you look at the cornerback position, obviously the priority is coverage. But if you can get the guy on the ground and limit the damage and support and run when it's necessary, you can really help out your defense, especially when you're playing outdoor football like you're going to get a lot of in the NFC North when you're talking Bears games, you're talking Packers games late in the season, right? Lions, Vikings, they play in a dome. They don't count, of course. But you're going to be playing a lot of scrappy, ugly football when it gets really windy late in the season, playoff football on the road, these kind of matchups, these kind of deals going on. You need to be good at tackling. You need to be good at stopping the run all across the field. And I look at Frazier as a guy that can certainly help them do just that. And again, his coverage grade, it's not like it's terrible. He showed a lot of good things. You brought up his numbers. I love the passer rating well targeted. Sometimes you can get a really good coverage grade if you get skewed by, you have two really, if you have 3 passes thrown at you, for example, you have 2 bat downs, but you give up a 60-yard touchdown. Your coverage grade won't look terrible, but your passer rating surrendered will look terrible. I think the fact that both of those metrics look good for Frazier is a sign that he has a perfect balance of doing the job well, play in and play out, while also not giving up the big plays. Again, it goes back to the quality tackling, finishing the play, all that kind of stuff we've already covered. Again, we're going to have to see how things shake out when we get through training camp and get through the preseason. But at this point, I've kind of, and I think you agree too, Mize, I think we've targeted Zaw Frazier as a guy to emerge as a key depth piece, and in my opinion, eventually compete with Tyreek Stevenson to be one of your starting outside corners. Oh, look, Terrell Smith has something to say about this. He's had some good plays too. He's had some good stretches. We'll have to see how it all shakes out. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of battles. And look, it never hurts to have a lot of corners. Corners are like pass rushers. If you got a lot of them, a lot of good ones, I should say, you're in a good spot. So even if we look at a guy like Frazier, even if he doesn't crack the starting lineup, it just emerges as a key depth piece. Look, there ain't nothing wrong with that in the long term, especially when you got to go up against really good quarterbacks like you have in really good offenses, like, of course, the Lions, Kevin O'Connell with Minnesota. They're going to be really good. Justin Jefferson, that offense. Of course, the Packers and Jordan Love, always a tough out. So when you look at the division, you look at the situation, Zaw Frazier, I think no matter how it goes, right, I think he's got a chance to eventually become a starter. But even if he doesn't, and it's just a quality depth piece, this is a really nice addition for the Bears. And I think he will play a critical, if not under the radar, but still important part of this Bears defense.
Yeah, Nick, and I would agree. I think this guy is on the trajectory. It's a matter of when, not if, he's going to be a starter for this team. I think he's going to be a really good player eventually. And I think that's the key here. Is two things I want to hammer home here. One, everyone knows depth. What's the worst thing that can happen to a team? If you lose a key corner, it feels like your defense falls apart at times. So having a guy like Zaw Frazier waiting in the wings, a potential guy that maybe needs to develop just a little bit, but has some really good skills, has some really good size. I think that's a key here. Is this is a guy that if he has to go in, you feel good about him. He's got some really good tools under his belt, done some great things in college. So having depth like Zaw Frazier is good. If he works his way into the starting lineup, that's even better. But the other thing I really like here, and it's briefly mentioned in the article, the Bears, new DB coach Al Harris. They talk about it. Very similar size as Frazier, a guy that in his career done a lot of great things. Second team All Pro, 2-time Pro Bowler. I think is in the Packers Hall of Fame. This guy has done a lot of really great stuff as a corner, but similar size, a good guy to come in here and kind of help mold and develop Zaw Frazier as well. So I think Zaw Frazier's in a good environment to get developed while also being a guy in a position to either provide very, very good depth or potentially work his way into that starting role as well. So I think the Bears set up very nicely in the DB room, and they made another great under the radar pick when they were selecting Zaw Frazier.
And just one final point to end on. You brought up Al Harris. If you're looking for a comp to get really excited, Bears fans, Harris helped develop a former fifth-round pick from Fresno State by way of Sacramento State with his previous gig with the Dallas Cowboys. His name's Deron Bland, Pro Bowl corner, set the record for pick sixes in a season a couple of years ago. So this is a guy in Harris who knows how to work with these guys, knows how to work with late-round, mid-round picks and mold them into stars. Frazier seems to be the next guy on that list to have a big-time impact under Al Harris.